هكذا أبدا جند وأنصار، هم هكذا أبدا عزم وإيثار، هم هكذا أبدا جند وأنصار، هم هكذا أبدا عزم وإصرار، هم هكذا أبدا نخلا إذا وقفوا، هم هكذا أبدا أسد إذا سار، هم هكذا أبدا نخلا إذا وقفوا، هم هكذا أبدا أسد إذا سار. العزم معدنهم والشمس موطنهم، والله أمنهم لو شبت النار، خضراء رايتهم والنصر آيتهم، رسل وغايتهم أن تحفظ الدار. العزم معدنهم والشمس موطنهم، والله أمنهم لو شبت النار، خضراء رايتهم والنصر آيتهم، رسل وغايتهم أن تحفظ الدار. الله أكبر تعالوا من جوامعنا، والشمس تشرق من نبض شوارعنا، والورد ينبع في خضر مرابعنا، يذر الربيع على درب طلائعنا. الله أكبر تعالوا من جوامعنا، والشمس تشرق من نبض شوارعنا، والورد ينبع في خضر مرابعنا، يذر الربيع على درب طلائعنا. والقائد الأعلى أعطى لنا المثل، النجم خاجبلا لو هب إعصار. والقائد الأعلى أعطى لنا المثل، النجم خاجبلا لو هب إعصار. والقائد الأعلى أعطى لنا المثل، النجم خاجبلا لو هب إعصار. والقائد الأعلى أعطى لنا المثل، النجم خاجبلا لو هب إعصار. وكلنا معه للحق أجناد، جمع وأفراد، وكلنا معه للمجد رواد، نعلو ونزداد. وكلنا معه للحق أجناد، جمع وأفراد، وكلنا معه للمجد رواد، نعلو ونزداد. إن تعصف الريح تسمو بنا الروح، فالأفق مفتوح والجيش جرار. إن تعصف الريح تسمو بنا الروح، فالأفق مفتوح والجيش جرار. إن تعصف الريح تسمو بنا الروح، فالأفق مفتوح والجيش جرار. إن تعصف الريح تسمو بنا الروح، فالأفق مفتوح والجيش جرار. وليبيا أبدا بالله تعتصم، والقائد أبدا العز والشمم، والفاتح أبدا فجر ويبتسم. وليبيا أبدا بالله تعتصم، والقائد أبدا العز والشمم، والفاتح أبدا فجر ويبتسم. وليبيا أبدا والقائد أبدا والفاتح أبدا فكر وثوار. وليبيا أبدا والقائد أبدا والفاتح أبدا فكر وثوار.
Hollywood movie, but a group of veterans has filed a lawsuit against the CIA and U.S. Army, claiming that the government planted remote control devices in their brains. The claims relate to a government program at the U.S. Army's Edgewood Arsenal in Maryland, where scientists tested hundreds of chemical and biological substances on at least 7,800 servicemen. So could this really be happening? Well, joining me to help discuss this is attorney Gordon Erspommer from San Francisco, California. So, Mr. Erspommer, you represent these veterans who have filed the lawsuit. What kinds of things have they told you about what happened to them?
Well, there are a variety of different circumstances they found themselves in, but one man, for example, was given a very potent hallucinogenic drug in a very high dose and left by himself, and he saw bugs under his fingernails, and he ended up taking a razor blade out of his mess kit and tearing out his fingernails under the influence of this psychotic drug. You mentioned the brain implants. So one of the plaintiffs has a brain implant that was pushed up his nose to the edge of his frontal lobe, and it is right on the periphery of his sinus cavity, and we believe it is a radio transmitter that enabled the government to remotely control his behavior. There are lots of other similar stories, but they tested hundreds and hundreds of different biological substances, such as anthrax, and chemical substances such as nerve gas, psychochemicals, a whole variety of psychochemicals, and they did this all in total secrecy for a period of over 20 years.
And as far as I understand, your clients can't get any monetary compensation from the CIA. So what exactly are you guys hoping for then? And explain to me a little bit why they can't get that monetary compensation.
Okay. Well, veterans are in a peculiar class in this country. Everyone else can sue under the Federal Tort Claims Act if the government does something bad to them, except veterans. And this is called the Ferris Doctrine because the U.S. Supreme Court in 1950 decided that veterans were somehow excluded from being able to sue under the Federal Tort Claims Act. And so a veteran cannot seek damages against the government. All the cases get thrown out. And part of the purposes of our case is to try to challenge that doctrine because it was not legislative. It was created by the U.S. Supreme Court during the middle of the Cold War. What we do seek in the case, in addition to challenging the Ferris Doctrine, is there are Army regulations that require medical care to be provided for all casualties of the program, of the human experimentation program, and also that require notice to each of the involved individuals as to what substance they got, because they don't know what was the dose they got, how concentrated, and what are the known health effects. So we are asking for all relief in all those areas. Notification of every veteran, or if deceased, his next of kin, provide health care to them free of charge for the conditions associated with their exposure, and also to be released from the secrecy oaths that were exacted from them. They cannot talk about their experience. They were all sworn to secrecy and gave secrecy oaths which the government is still trying to enforce,
right,
30, 40 years later.
Yeah, and speaking of that secrecy, how tough has it been to go up against the CIA? I'm guessing they probably don't want to talk too much about this.
Well, the discovery in the first year and a half of the case has been almost impossible against the CIA. They have not participated in discovery. The magistrate judge just ordered them finally to respond to our document requests, but there's been a total lack of cooperation from the CIA. And frankly, the rest of the defendants are not much better. The Army and the Department of Defense have been resisting discovery at every moment as well. So it's been a very difficult case. They're claiming executive privilege and top secret classification and just about every other imaginable objection to discovery.
And I interviewed someone in one of our earlier shows who said they believe programs like this still exist today. What do you think? Do you think it's more commonplace than people would think?
I personally believe that the program exists today, but with the different forms of consent. The issues of consent are also part of our case. I should have mentioned that, but informed consent. But they did these tests without telling anyone what they were getting, what the health effects were, and then they just discharged them and never followed up. Today, I think the program does go on today. There are, I hear about VA, veterans from VA domiciliaries, rest homes being used. There's a lot of research that's being conducted, but probably under conditions where they sign the right form at least to consent to being experimented upon. Yeah,
I was going to say, some people who hear about this case might say, hey, these guys volunteered for experiments, right? They should have known that, what they were doing.
Well, there's a lot of problems with the consent. They were told that what they'd be testing was new kinds of gas masks and protective clothing for soldiers for a chemical warfare or biological warfare. And once they got to the Edgewood Arsenal or one of a number of other sites, they kind of did a bait and switch on them. And suddenly they found themselves in gas chambers where they were using tear gas or mustard gas or V gas, the so-called V gas, which is a nerve gas. And the consents that they signed did not identify what they were going to be exposed to. They just said, I agree to participate in this program.
Yeah.
And they used all kinds of things that lured them into it by telling them, oh, you only have to work 4 days a week, and there's no KP duty, and so on and so forth. And so they actually were recruited under false pretenses, and none of them knew what they were getting into.
It's really, really shocking stuff, and of course we're going to continue to follow this case. That was attorney Gordon Erspalmer from San Francisco, California.
We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.